My name is Theresa and I come from the Stelo Nation. I was born and raised in Chilliwack, BC. My parents are Stephen and Gwen Point, and
my name is Nicola Campbell. I grew up in the Nicola Valley. On my mother's side, I'm Thompson and Okanagan, and on my father's side, I'm Métis. My dad was Métis from Saskatchewan. My mom, her name is Carol.
How did you become interested in writing poetry?
I became interested in writing poetry after I had been studying English in university, and through our poetry class and studying different famous poets, pretty much from history and around the world, I felt like if I were to put my thoughts onto paper in the same way and be able to express where I was at or what I was going through or how I viewed the world at the time, sort of what my worldview was, that it would be therapeutic for me and help me to get some of that junk out on paper and just be able to express it in that way. So that was sort of my start of writing poetry.
I first got interested in writing when I was very young because my aunt was an author, and is an author, and she published her first book the year after I was born in 1973. I've just been reading a lot of her stuff, and I've always actually been a very, I guess, avid reader, and decided at a very young age that I wanted to be a writer too. I actually remember telling my friends when I was, I don't know how old I was, 7 or 8, that I wanted to be an author one day, and I used to tell all my little friends that, like, never really realizing that it would actually happen.
What is the best thing about being an author?
Well, for me, I don't really technically consider myself an author, but I think I'm an author of my story, and I believe that as human beings, we're all here having a spiritual experience, and every single human being is an artist. And the purpose of our art is to express the beauty that we have inside and how you interact with the world. So for me, being an author of my own story, or being a writer, being a rapper, being a R&B singer, being a folk singer, being a guitar player, being a youth mentor, all of these different sort of hats that I wear in the community, the best part for me is to be able to express who I am and have people understand, to see that mirror be reflected back to me from the outside world. So when I write something and someone comes back to me and says, I really related to what you wrote. It really helped me in a time when I was sad or having a hard day. I put on that track that you wrote, and it really brought my spirits alive, or it really brought my day up, or it helped me of where I was at that time. To have people relate back to me what I'm putting out there is probably the best part of the job. And the other benefit, which is sort of like a double benefit that goes along with that, is I get all that stuff out. You know, I don't have to hang on to it and let it poison the inside and poison who I am and get toxic on the inside of me. I have a way to always relay my information and my thoughts or perspectives, my hurt feelings or my emotions for that day. It's my way to express who I am, and it's always available. It never goes away. And that's a huge, huge benefit. It's free therapy. In a nutshell, it's free therapy.
I don't see it as something that I'm doing just for myself. I see it as, I guess when you think about, you know, the role traditionally of the storyteller or of the orator, right? Or of, you know, those people that stand up and talk to the people. And traditionally there was a lot of different forms that it took, right? I think as a writer myself, and with the goals that I have in my writing, is to tell those stories of strength, so that if any young person who's going through what I went through as a teenager and doesn't know how to turn, and is even thinking about something like suicide, has something that they can pick up, if it's just a poem or if it's a book of stories, where there's stories of strength one after another, after another, after another, so that they know that there's a place that they, there's a path. There's a different path to take. There's a different path to take, rather than just staying within the sorrow. And that's what, I guess, as an author, as a writer, that's one of the things that I think makes me feel inspired. And, in my aunt's first book, Half-Breed, I think that was one of the things that was really inspiring too, as a young person, to see what she overcame to become that stronger person.
Is it important to have your culture, your heritage in your work?
Yes, absolutely. That's a 10-point question right there. Basically, for me, culture is a huge part of who I am. Heritage is where I come from. So to not have that be a part of my art would be leaving a big piece of who I am out of the art. And I think one of the big messages that we have and that we carry as young Indigenous people today is to show the world that we've survived. Not only have we survived, but we're thriving. Not only are we thriving, we're successful and we can be happy, and that we're normal, whatever normal is in standards of society today, because you really don't have a scale for weird to normal anymore. It's all such a melting pot of existence, right? But I think culture, and not only culture, but our history and our legacy is very much a part of who we are and how we walk today. And we balance, that native life and then that contemporary commercialized life. Like, take an example, look at what I'm wearing today. It's like I'm wearing a Dickies button-up white shirt, but I got like my beaded bling too, right? And I'm always trying to find that balance between I'm homo squee, but I also have to live in and balance that with the world and the technology that's around us today, and try to make it all work together. So, in essence, I'm living like two lives, but I'm really only living one. And I'm trying to make those paths merge together the best way that I know how, that I can. And culture and history is so important. It's so important.
I couldn't write without my culture and my heritage present in my work. Yeah, it has to be there. I remember hearing an elder speak at a language conference, and he talked about our stories being elastic. In our languages, the stories that are told in our traditional languages, they were elastic. They could move, they could dance, they could stretch, and they would come alive in the telling. And I think that's a huge part of it. And so every time I sit down to write, I think about what that elder said. Yeah. Snow on the mountains. He stands at the water's edge, gazes out over the water. Mist lingers in the air around him. The rain pours off the brim of his hat. 100 years earlier, he would have worn cedar. Soft and rolling, his words reach a place deep within. Manifest strength, endurance, and hunger. His laugh is as peaceful as his face. He tells us, you are only as strong as your mind. Snow on the mountains, snowflakes and hail dance with the rain. The sky is dark gray. Somewhere in our world, the frogs are singing. We gather each day on the beach, embrace our paddles, blade up, handle resting in the pebbles and sand. The water is a blanket of glass beneath the rain. A rush of sound as it falls. Saturated earth, hemlock and cedar trees, houses, sand, stones, grass, the dock, canoe pullers that stand on the beach. Perhaps we could be home, warm and dry. With creative writing, it's so important to be able to allow things like, going through a critiquing process to make you a stronger person, depending on what the critiquing process is focused on. It could be on your work, it could be on your work ethic, it could be on your writing. And for me, it was a lot of times, well, obviously I went through it a lot, right? But in different areas of my life. But in my writing, it was such an inspiring process too, because it really made me go back and revisit my stories and my poetry over and over and over again to make the changes and just make it strong, you know. When I got my first book published, I wanted to write work that not only crossed traditional territories, but that crossed those boundaries between who we are, you know, as Aboriginal people and non-Aboriginal people, that could stand up, right? You know, like our elders tell us that in order to be successful in our lives, that we have to be able to stand up on our 2 feet, solid on the ground in who we are, and that, you know, 1 foot strong in our culture and in our identity and all those teachings that our elders laid out for us, but also that other foot so that we can be strong enough to go forward into today's society and carry those things and move forward with it so that we can pass it on. And that was something that really meant a lot to me, and I wanted that to come through in my writing.
We can't forget that part of ourselves, and we can't ever let it go, you know, because if we do that, then we're just like everybody else. So, you know, how are we going to identify? How are we going to be unique? And how are we going to stay connected to the things that are really important, that keep us alive, that have kept us thriving, like spirit, you know, and like those traditions that we come from. Those are the things that really essentially kept us going, and it's going to keep us going. So for sure, I always include that into my art. Freedom fighting's all about goal taking. Reach your mind and you'll be solo with them. Feeling life shout outs to all the bros and sisters. What is out? Oh, graze the gram blissfully, living day to day. Bump the beat, break out the sheets, I love a blank page. Corrupt my mind with tendencies I'm getting from this industry. Break the habit, fork it, stab it, think originally. Create the world we did with a single thought we thought about. The thought about was talked about, the talked about was brought about. Success is state of mind, it's illusion at its finest. Serve a purpose, live your dream that's living at its primest. Not feeling me, the words I speak, your opinions, one of many. Approval seek, it's just not me. I care about the things I know, the raps I flow. My life I take it blow by blow and steady grow. But while I grow, I keep on my mind the limits of this life. I'm limited by the thoughts that I keep on my mind, Trapped in the depths of my own mind. I'm diving so deep, can see the sunshine, but in time, introspection brings about some new conclusions. I'm breaking through those misconceptions, some illusions. I'm learning from myself what it is that others see. Underneath the surface, it's a different kind of me. What I think and what I feel is often misinterpreted. What I say is what I mean, you know you can't debate it. My heart speaks my mind and it beats in rhythm. Reflecting all this light and looking like a prism. And though it's often overlooked, I know that someday you'll take a closer look at what I got to say. That's when you get up and you ride the wave. I'll keep on making music while you hibernate. The simplicity that exists through confusion allows for more clear interpretation of what you're not losing. Yourself, I will always be here. Mistakes are just that. Perfection's an impossible reflection, and I don't have a mirror. Although so dear to me are the virtues I have sown, I'm an unfinished person with a long way to go. So here I go, take the leap, yep, I'll swim with the sharks. You'll never catch me stumbling, fumbling, lost in the dark. I'll step back from the light and let you take the lead. The battle's won by 1 or 50 to 1, I believe. It's never just me, there's a whole goddamn slew of us. If you didn't know that, it's time to shake off the dust and see what's up. But really only as strong as a forgotten left behind. We really make some progress, we have to think with one mind, but not define our existence through perfection in living. Sometimes it's the mistakes I make what's given and given. Freedom fighting's all about goal taking. Reach your mind and you'll be solo with them. Feeling life shout outs to all the bros and sisters. What is out? Oh.
What kind of advice would you give First Nation students interested in writing?
First step, just do it. Just do it. Don't think about it or think about when you're going to do it or how you're going to do it. Just do it. That's the first step to accomplishing anything, is get beyond the thought of doing it and start taking the steps in order to accomplish what your goals are to be successful. Because I'm an artist and I'm doing what I love, but I can always do it better, and I can always do it on a larger scale, and I can always be more successful, right? There's no end to what you can achieve in this lifetime. So my advice to young First Nations people is just do it. Just sit down and start writing. That's your first step. And once you have your writing, what are you going to do with it? What do you want to do with it? Who do you know that's doing what you're doing? How did they get to where they want to go? It's just that constant grind, right? Write it, then do something with your writing. And once you have, those steps accomplished, what can you do that's even greater than that on a larger scale? But the very, very first step is to just get your ideas down on paper. That always helped me, to take it from here, put it down onto paper, look at it, and then see where it transcribes from there, right?
Just to write. If it's every day, keep journals, if you're worried about somebody intruding on the privacy of those journals or what have you, you have to find a way. You have to find a way, and you have to just keep on writing. And not only that, it's to start taking those steps, to start writing, different ways of writing to strengthen your skills as a writer. And not to be afraid of the critiquing process, because it makes you stronger. It makes, for me as a writer, that critiquing process was so crucial to becoming not just a writer, but a really strong writer. Salish dancer, blue sky collects on our skin, thick and warm. Today the leaves do not dance, the birds and the squirrels do not sing. In the distance, the ripples of a hungry fish unfold in lazy circles, around and around and around. Coach and bow lady wait at the picnic table, encircled by a bouquet of cedar and hemlock trees. One by one, men, women, and children gather, their voices and laughter respite from the day. They are golden in the sunshine. Little Zim, 50-50, Little Five, Mountain Breeze, and Salish Dancer, they rest, great cedar beings, on canoe racks nearby. Men on the breeze, women on the dancer. The leaves begin their sway when the canoes touch water. The trees start to dance minutes later. We paddle away knowing our coaches are watching. Each switch, each slide, each stroke. Not one paddle is out of time. Stalo soft Tamuch, lined with houses, residents oblivious. These canoes have traveled here, warmed these beaches for thousands of years. White caps swiftly congregate as we paddle. When we reach the middle, the winds meet us there. Howling over the mountains, heavy with dark clouds, mist and rain, lightning mushrooms across the sky, and moments later, loud and pounding, the world sings. Waves all foam up and over our heads, waist-deep, mindful of our coach's words. It doesn't matter how rough the water is. You have to stay focused. Don't let fear take over, and never stop paddling. Remember, cedar never sinks. We paddle until Skipper hollers, "Everyone jump out! We have to roll her over! And bail! Whatever you do, don't let go and don't lose your paddles!" Rising and rolling with the waves, we hold tight to the Salish dancer and tread water until the mountain breeze sweeps through the mist. Unafraid, the men jump into the water amidst storm and waves. Together, we rock the Salish dancer hard, side to side, to get the water out, and then climb back in again, and Skipper hollers, "Head her home!" We arrive wearing mismatched flip-flops, some with one, some with none, eyes wide, laughing, and some crying. Men on the women's canoe, women on the men's canoe. On the beach, Coach stands unsurprised and squinting. Looks like you all went for a swim. Our paddles in hand, we move as one across the water. The strength of Mother Earth, together we paddle her song, together we paddle her dance, the beautiful Salish dancer.
I think what I'm most proud of accomplishing, it doesn't even really have to do with my career or my art. I'm most proud of being a mom, because I have a really beautiful son that I brought into this world, and I try to raise him in a good way with good values.
My son, because he's really cute and he's really cool and he's just an amazing little boy.